welcome to CSS Studio. We're pleased to have you here answering some of the questions we have about your platform. But first we have a few more personal questions to get to know you a little more. So question one, why did you decide to join politics, and why did you choose to run for the Green Party?
Yeah, okay. So those are the important questions for sure. I guess the calling to respond to sort of an urge within me to run for office was growing in the last couple of years. I work as a freelance facilitator. I do leadership consulting work and sit with small groups of people, mostly professionals, leaders, a variety of fields, and talk to them and kind of host an opportunity for them to hear from themselves and to kind of explore maybe questions that they're holding or things that they've been wondering about, and to kind of sit with that. And as I was doing that with others the last 5 years or so, I began to notice that I was satisfied with the work I was doing, this consulting, facilitating work, but I was also noticing there was a restlessness in me about some of the bigger societal issues that were going on, and really noticing that I didn't really feel like I was as fully engaged with what was happening in a larger arena. And one of the places I thought I could get involved is politics, so I got involved in the federal election. And I had heard Elizabeth May speak as a Green Party leader for the federal party, and really liked what she had to say. And so my leaning was more towards the Green Party to get involved with them. So then when this provincial election came up, I was going to get involved in the campaign. I was going to work hard on it, and several people came along and said, you know, Dan, you really should be the one who actually jumps in and runs as a candidate. But I guess the other part of my answer to that question is that there was actually a lot of anger in me, like an indignation about the injustice of what was going on, how the game is rigged for the powerful and the wealthy, and how it's rigged against the rest of us, and how democracy is not supposed to work that way. And so there's a failure in the system right now. And I really wanted to be a part of a movement for change. So that was some fire in my belly, like some passion. And that was part of that restlessness I could identify. So that's kind of what motivated me to get in, jump in.
Awesome. Okay, question two. What is your connection to the Kamloops North Thompson riding?
So the riding is kind of everywhere in Kamloops north of the river, the east-west river, the South Thompson, the Thompson, and all the way up to Blue River actually is the northern end of the riding. So it's quite a large riding. My connection with it is that I was born and raised in, actually at the time, on Pinantan Lake on a ranch, a sheep ranch, above Kamloops. My family moved into town when I was very small, into Brocklehurst. I was raised in Brock and went to Norcam. So I've got deep roots there, but my family goes back to the 30s. My grandpa moved out during the Great Depression, landed at Pinantan Lake as a rancher, and ran his sheep up the North Thompson. So all these places along the way, Barrier, Chuchua, and then up to above Little Fort, there's an alpine area called Baldy Mountain or Dun Peak area. So that was the summer range for the sheep. So we would move the sheep back and forth up the North Thompson Valley. And I've been up there hiking with my older brother and kind of reliving, I guess, some of the memories of those 30 plus years that they were doing, moving the sheep back and forth between Pinantan up the Yellowhead Highway up north. And I've always had a strong connection with the North Thompson Valleys. I think kind of that residual family memory and knowledge. And then really getting involved in what was happening in Brocklehurst and North Kamloops growing up and raising my girls there. So just a deep connection with the riding, and with the land of the riding too.
Yeah, sure. Okay, question three. Why are you going through all this trouble of running a campaign, knowing that your chances of forming the government are slim to none?
Well, I would take out slim to none from the question, I think, because it's changed a lot. Even in the last month, there was a new poll out this morning that, for example, put the BC Greens 38% on Vancouver Island, 4 points ahead of the NDP. And we just pushed past the 20% mark for the first time provincially for a sort of solid Green vote. We also know that in the past, Green voters were fairly flexible with their vote, and now we see that there's a growing core group of Green voters that are very dedicated to voting Green. That's new. And we're the only party that's really moving up with 3 weeks to go. And it's all about momentum and movement. So I guess I would caution that the question is based on the past. And one thing we know about politics, especially in the last couple of years, is that it has not been very easy to predict what's happening in the present based on past results. the voters are in it's a very volatile time. There's a lot of transition going on. People are very unpredictable. And so there's a lot of interesting energy out there. And the Greens, we're just on a big wave right now. We don't really know where it's going, but it's turned around. Now, one thing I will say about your question is that a year ago, when I really made the decision to consider running, it is true that I was probably the last convert of our whole group that we could actually win an election in Kamloops North Thompson. And I was very realistic about our expectations. I based them a lot on the past results. I thought I was going to run as a Green just because I know there's certain questions the other parties won't ask. There's certain things they won't bring up. Some of them have to do with the environment, some of them have to do with corporate and big money, big union money in politics. Just things that I know that the other parties were going to dance around and avoid. And in Kamloops, the big Ajax mine project's another one. And I wanted to be part of that conversation. I wanted to bring maybe a different set of values into the room. But I knew running, my odds of getting elected at that point, I thought were a long shot. And then I've been slowly, coming along here, and the others around me saw it before I did. And I was sort of the last holdout, really, of the group who thought, we're going to do well, but now we actually have a shot at it. We're actually a contender, which is a new experience for us as Greens. It's a really interesting place to be in.
Awesome. All right, and my fourth and final question for these set of questions. If you are elected in this riding, but the rest of the province elect NDP or Liberal government, isn't that bad for us? Isn't it easier to get favors from the government if our MLA is from the same party?
And that speaks to what has gone wrong in politics. We can accept it and we can say that it is about favoritism and it is about getting your person in who can do little favors for the group that they represent. I think what we represent as Greens is a movement for getting away from that idea of favors, but what is in the best interest of all of us and what policies will get us there, instead of rewarding those who may vote for us or those who may donate to my campaign, and then doing a little extra favor for them, maybe a policy that's more in line with keeping the money flowing for the next election, which is really what we've seen. Not just in BC, it's a problem in democracies and politics in general, but in BC even more so because we don't have any rules. I mean, it's the Wild West here when it comes to money. So I think the challenge for me in that question is to recognize that it's not about electing somebody who's going to be the person then who will open up the taps and allow money to flow into this area. It's really about someone who's going to represent the best interests and advocate for things that actually really are in the best interest of the area. And advocate for what's best for BC, because as an MLA, you don't just represent your riding. You do represent a larger provincial story, and we have to make good decisions about healthcare and education and social services and economic development that go beyond just your boundaries of your riding.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess we're going to move on to our first set of questions about economy. So we have 3 students each asking a question: Corbin, Mason, and Ajax. So I will let Corbin ask
just
the question.
to make sure that we actually hear your voice, make sure that you speak loudly enough.
So how will your green technology job creation program work?
So the part of what we're looking at doing is that there has been sort of economic development that's going on in the area of renewable energy, say, or we look at sort of high tech, and it's been happening. It's been developing on its own, has its own energy. What we think is that there's a role for the provincial government to play to accelerate that. And part of that is to provide support for entrepreneurs, particularly small and medium-sized businesses that really are more innovative, more creative, a little bit hungrier, have some really great ideas. And that's where most ideas kind of come from in the economy. Actually, they come out of small players. They don't come out of, we think, these big players like Google and Microsoft, that they generate all the great ideas. But if you actually look carefully, they absorb smaller players who've actually done all the really interesting, innovative work, and they've taken them into themselves as larger companies. So how do we support those really innovative projects? How do we give them support? How do we allow them to sort of stand on their own to get up and running? And those are really the big job creators too. So what we've announced is about $270 million investment in this one set of programs that are really about providing what we call incubators or accelerators. So kind of a place where if you have a really good idea, you can go and get coached and mentored by people who have already had some level of success, who know the industry, they know how to market stuff, they know how to deal with, you know, all the ins and outs of running a business, and can support that. So that's a big part of it. And the other is just creating a climate for innovation. And one of the things we have going for us in BC is that we've got this incredible natural environment, we've got access to resources, we've got a very skilled, educated workforce. So there's no reason why we can't be very successful with this. We just need to kind of stimulate it more. We need to be more supportive of it. So.
All right, and do we have our next question from Mason?
What does your platform mean by fair